not at all concerned with TV being a little boring. Everybody's watching TV. So what if it's boring? So what if there's not violence? So what if it's not sexy? Who cares? We're still winning, right? How hard do you have to try if all you have to do is show up and win? Film, on the other hand, says, no, we got to be more violent, we got to be more sexy. Then we get to the 1960s. Now, we've discussed the 1960s before. It's a time of turmoil and change, and youth culture is becoming really important to society, particularly in America, and they are demanding change. So the films start to even become more so. The violence becomes more realistic, more bloody, okay? The sex becomes more graphic. There is now nudity being shown starting in the mid-1960s. These things are starting to happen. Well, this Hays Code is now problematic. So here's what happens. To allow this freedom for the directors, but to still be safe and self-censored, the Motion Picture Association of America creates a rating system. And you know the rating system. It's originally it's G, then it was GP, but PG, R, and X. X got co-opted by the pornography industry, so they kept working with this, A and some other things, and eventually they came up with NC-17. And they created this rating system. Again, it's self-censorship. You and I could make a film right now, put anything we want into it, and not get the film rated and distribute our film. There's a problem, however. Virtually no movie theater chain will run a movie if it's not rated. And a lot of them won't run movies that are rated NC-17. Okay? And this is all going to come back to be important. In the 1980s, they create a new one called PG-13. Okay? So, what does this mean about our director and the director language? It means during this period, the director is incredibly hampered, not being able to do what he or she wants. Alfred Hitchcock is basically directing movies, and people think his films are brilliant, with one hand tied behind his back. They're not the films that look exactly like how he wants them to do. So much has to be implied. Now, a lot of people really appreciate that. He showed very well you can make films that were scary, weird, freaky, disturbing, without having graphic violence and nudity and language. You could do it, right? And a lot of directors did it, and it's an impressive period of time. However, it did mean that certain choices they would have made, they couldn't, right? Then this rating system comes along and it frees them up in a great way in terms of they can do things they couldn't do before. Now, some people don't like that, and I can argue both sides pretty easily. However, it still hampers them for a couple of reasons. For starters, the rating system, and I'm going to give a link to a part of a documentary called This Film Is Not Yet Rated. It's a brilliant film, and it's a documentary about the rating system. The rating system is incredibly arbitrary. It's made up by a small group of people whose names are kept private, but it's supposed to be parents, but it frequently isn't, and they just make up a choice, like, oh, this one looks like an R. They don't have a hard set of rules, and the rules change all the time, and they are harder on independent films versus big studio films. Some films are you're like, how did that not be an NC-17? Or why is that an R? Why is that a PG-13? It's incredibly arbitrary, right? So while it gave them freedom, they still had to adhere to this rating system, today's directors, and you don't want to get an NC-17. So you've got to make sure that your film fits inside here. And if your film is a big enough budget, it usually needs to fall in the PG or PG-13 area, right? Because although R-rated movies are now making tons and tons of money, it's still the sweet spot if you want like kids and stuff to go. You're not going to see a Star Wars movie that's rated R. That's just not going to happen. So the director is still basically working with one hand tied behind his or her back because they have to fit this rating system. And again, they don't have to, right? It's still self-censorship, but because it's a closed system, if you want to get into a theater, you have to be rated. So you have to go through this process. TV remains regulated, at least broadcast TV, by the FCC. that is quickly breaking down. And again, this fight between TV and film continues to this day, although the lines are now in the last 5 years so blurred. It looks like we're heading toward a change that will make a lot of this look incredibly antiquated just in the next couple of years. But the important thing to remember is how this basically affects the director's choice when conveying meaning, idea, concept to you.